We are live.
Okay, very good. Welcome to the December 7th, 2020 Elyria City Council meeting. At this time, I'd like to have a moment of reflective silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Cheers.
Well, right now they're standing.
Disappear.
Very good. Mr. Brubaker, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Sure. Pledge allegiance.
Flag. United States of America. And to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Brubaker. Mr. Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Callahan.
Here.
Mr. Sira.
Here.
Mr. Oswald.
Here.
Mr. Baird.
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Tollett.
Here.
Mrs. Simmons. Mrs. Simmons.
You're on mute, Diane.
I see her. We got you. Mrs. Davis.
Here.
Mrs. Keys.
Here.
Mr. Jesse.
Here.
Mr. Stewart.
Here.
All present.
Public hearings.
You are hereby notified that a public hearing will be held on Monday, December 7th, 2020 at 7 p.m. during a virtual Elyria City Council meeting to consider the following. An ordinance amending section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance, to rezone real property located at 1301 Lowell Street, Elyria, Ohio, from a R-MD residential medium district to a L-1 light industrial district.
Are there any proponents? Are there any proponents?
Yes, Jeff Yorick with UMH Properties is here. We have our attorney on as well, but I don't hear him yet. John Monroe.
Jeff,
Yeah,
if you
he's
could please state your name, and John Moreau, I see John has checked in. If you
We're
both,
actually on, we're here for items 2, 3, and 4, not,
okay. Okay,
sorry about that.
that's okay. So then, is there anybody here in reference to 1301 Lowell Street that's for proponents?
Hi, yes, this is Ty Stewart with Liberty Development Company. Can you hear me?
Hi, Ty. Yes, if you
Hi.
please state your name and address for the record, please.
It's Ty Stewart with Liberty Development Company, 28045 Rainy Parkway, Westlake, Ohio. I'm
Okay.
here on behalf of Lowell Street Properties regarding this rezoning. We've been working with the mayor and community development on this for a couple months. And we went through the planning commission process, made some modifications at their request, and we're here happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any members of council have any questions for Mr. Stewart, Ms. Mitchell? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Are there any opponents? Are there any opponents? I declare this public hearing has been held.
An ordinance amending section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance, to rezone real property located at 1301 Lowell Street, Elyria, Ohio, from a R-MD residential medium district to a AL-1 light industrial district.
Callahan.
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its third reading.
Second.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-157. You are hereby notified a public hearing will be held on Monday, December 7th, 2020 at 7 p.m. during a virtual Elyria City Council meeting to consider the following. An ordinance amending section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance to rezone real property located on Ernst Street and Midway Boulevard, Elyria, Ohio, from L-1 light industrial district to R-MHP residential manufactured home park district.
Clerk, are there any proponents? Mr. Monroe, please state your name
Yes.
for the record.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is John Monroe. I'm with the law firm of Manser Gavin, and we represent the property owner, O.H. Pikewood Manor LLC. I'm here by phone. It sounds like Jeff Yorick. He's the representative of UMH, which is the owner of this particular company, and also by Dale Haywood, Atwell Engineering. We are seeking, hopefully, approval of this rezoning request. There are actually the next two on your agenda as well. So items number 2, 3, and 4. This is to permit the expansion of the existing Pikewood Manor manufactured home park, which is to the south of this property. UMH is seeking to add a maximum of 168 home sites at this location. There are multiple parcels that are currently zoned light industrial that we're asking to be rezoned to R-MHP zone. There's also several parcels that are zoned currently business general, and we are asking that those lots be rezoned to R-MHP district. At the end of the day, we're hoping to consolidate the parcels into 2 big chunks, which would work around the existing dedicated streets. And just to give you a little bit of background about UMH, it's a 50-year-old company. It's a REIT. That means it's a publicly traded real estate and investment trust, and has never sold a park. They own approximately 122 parks, mainly around the Northeast of the United States, some 23,000 developed home sites under its management. It purchased this particular community in late 2018 from the Summers family. Been pursuing some upgrades and would like to expand the park to the north to allow a maximum of 168 pads. We've gone through all the steps to get here this evening. We stopped at Community Development Committee, the Planning Commission as well, which approved this proposal with no conditions. So we just asked for the ordinances to be passed tonight on the third reading, and we thank you for your time.
Is there any questions for Mr.
Available for any
Monroe?
questions.
Any questions from council to Ms. Davis?
You're on mute, Brenda.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stewart and Mr. Monroe.
Yes.
The Pikewood Manor, you say you're gonna put 168 units in there and you're going north from where to where? Because I'm trying to visualize where
Okay.
this is going.
So the best way to describe it is the bulk of it's behind the Lowe's store,
Mhm.
and then to the railroad tracks to the west, and then to Midway Boulevard as basically the northern the northern edge, but then there will be a access road out to Griswold Road. So there's a very thin strip that would give access out to Griswold. And again, these would be home sites which would be leased to individuals who would purchase manufactured homes and site them on those pads.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome, Ms. Davis.
Any other questions? Mr. Oswald?
You mentioned that you were going to have an outlet going towards the parallel with the tracks going out on Griswold Road. Has that already been etched in stone, or is that something that you have to still work out? I was under the impression that the last time we talked about it, I didn't know that was happening at this time. Could you fill me in on that? Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. So the property owner does own the strip that goes up to Griswold. I always caution people, these are preliminary plans because they're not final engineered, they're not for construction. And so what we find is as we go through the process of stormwater management, through the various municipal approvals and then Department of Commerce, that we lose home sites. So this is the maximum. Right now, the plan is to go to Griswold. We think the majority of the existing park would still go out the existing entrance, but the expansion area could go out Midway Boulevard and could go north to Griswold. The other streets I would suggest really aren't developed at all, 51st or 52nd. They were never built out for whatever reason. So we think the majority of the traffic would head north to Griswold. This expansion
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Oswald?
Thank you, Mr. President. So you do have plenty of options for ingress, egress on that development. I'm sure you've had that go through Planning Commission.
I'm not sure because I think this is just a rezoning request. As far as the layout of the lots, that's typically done by the Department of Commerce down in Columbus. And not sure how many additional steps will be going back through the city, but we're happy to any future steps we will.
Yeah. So
I
Mr.
suppose
Oswald,
that-
this is just a rezoning for this particular
I'm sorry.
time, Oswald. So
Okay.
the next process, once this gets forward through, then they'll go through their preliminary in the planning commission and submittal
Yeah.
plan, everything in the survey portion of everything. So this is just the first step of rezoning. Is there any, Mr. Baird?
Yeah, I'm assuming along that same line, would imagine the police department or the fire department for sure wants additional ingress and egress there for fire protection as they go along, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That'll all be addressed. Yep. Chief Whiteley?
Now, this egress and ingress and egress from Griswold is going to be west of Leona. Is that correct?
I would assume.
Through you,
No.
Mr. Chair, and Attorney Monroe, please feel free to cut me off and correct me. That's what it appears from the partial map I'm looking at right here.
Is Midway Mall Boulevard going to continue all the way through to Lake?
I'm not looking, it doesn't look like they're continue. I'm sorry, Chief, I don't know that I understand. It doesn't look like they're extending Midway necessarily.
Okay, can you raise the map a
As I
little bit?
said- I'm sorry?
He's holding a map up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Doing the best I can here, sorry.
Yeah.
Sure.
So Griswold's on the top there, and the green orange areas would be the expansion pads, and then the existing park is down here at the bottom of my screen by my name. The railroad is along the west side. There you see the line, and the
Yeah.
entrance to Griswold would be, oh, thank you. Oops. We're gonna get a little more sophisticated here.
Ma'am, let's see the world. Oh my God.
There's the mall. So go, yep,
There it is.
there it is.
Okay.
So that would be where the little hand is would be the access to Griswold. You see going north to south. And then Midway would extend into the new proposed development. And then we would, the proposal is to hook it into this over on the left-hand bottom part, Ernest Street, to connect that.
Okay.
So it'd basically be the development of those fields that you see.
Okay.
Green. And the home, I believe, either has been demolished or will be demolished. That's the home that you see with the kind of bluish roof.
Yes.
Way. Yep.
That was my follow-up question. What about the house there? Okay, I got it.
It Lois.
Thank you, Mr. Monroe.
You're welcome. Thanks to Alan for pulling that up on the screen.
Yeah. So I think, again, this is just a rezoning, and I think they're going to go through the process of, the plans and submittal, and, at that time, maybe when that time comes, that maybe all council members, Mr. Monroe at that time can give us to the clerk's office, maybe a preliminary drawing, a concept of what you're going through so they can see that, but we're way ahead of that right now at this point. So.
Will do, Mr. President.
Yep, thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Monroe? Very good. Are there any other proponents? Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Are there any opponents? Are there any opponents? I declare this public hearing has been held.
An ordinance amending section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance, to rezone real property located on Ernst Street and Midway Boulevard, Elyria, Ohio, from a L-1 light industrial district to a R-MHP residential manufactured home park district.
Mr. Callahan,
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its third reading.
Second.
second by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-158. You are hereby notified that a public hearing will be held on Monday, December 7th, 2020 at 7 p.m. during a virtual Elyria City Council meeting to consider the following. An ordinance amending section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance, to rezone real property located on Midway Boulevard, Elyria, Ohio, from B-G Business General District and L-1 Light Industrial District to R-MHP Residential Manufactured Home Park District.
Are there any proponents? Mr. Monroe, if you want to follow up.
Just, it's the same information, just a different chunk of land that needs different zoning classification.
Sure.
Thank you.
Very good. Are there any proponents? Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Are there any opponents? Are there any opponents? I declare this public hearing has been held.
An ordinance amending section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance, to rezone real property located on Midway Boulevard, Elyria, Ohio, from a B-G Business General District and a L-1 Light Industrial District to a R-MHP Residential Manufactured Home Park District.
Mr. Callahan,
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its third reading.
Second.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Questions have been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-159. You are hereby notified that a public hearing will be held Monday, December 7th, 2020 at 7 p.m. during a virtual Leary City Council meeting to consider the following. An ordinance amending section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance to rezone real property located on Midway Boulevard, 51st Street and 52nd Street, Elyria, Ohio, from a L-1 light industrial district to a R-MHP residential manufactured home park district.
Are there any proponents? Mr. Monroe, again.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Again, just a different chunk of land, same general area that needs to be rezoned to the RMHP district. Thank you.
Very good. Are there any other proponents? Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Are there any opponents? Are there any opponents? I declare this hearing has been held.
An ordinance amending section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance to rezone real property located on Midway Boulevard, 51st Street and 52nd Street, Elyria, Ohio, from a L-1 light industrial district to a R-MHP residential manufactured home park district.
Mr. Callahan.
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its third reading.
Second.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Mr. Monroe, we
Aye.
want to wish you the best. We look forward to working with you in the development of the park in itself over the next few years. So thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you all council members for your time this evening.
Thank you.
That was ordinance 2020-160. You are hereby notified that a public hearing will be held Monday, December 7th, 2020 at 7 p.m. during a virtual Elyria City Council meeting to consider the following. An ordinance amending section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance to rezone real property located adjacent to 131 Buckeye Street, Elyria, Ohio, from a residential to household R-TH district to a light industrial L-1 district.
Are there any proponents?
Yeah, this is Jim Yorks. I'm the architect on the project, and we're just here to answer any questions as it may be brought up. But what our request is there's a, we
Mr.
have
York?
several parcels.
Mr. York, if I could interrupt, if you could please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is James Yorks. It's YORKS at 7525 Levitt Road. And that's Amherst, Ohio, 44001.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Not a problem. Buckeye State Welding and Fabricating have their home here on Buckeye Street in Elyria. And even though times are awkward right now, they've been fortunate to need to expand their facility. They'd like to expand immediately to what we would call the east. And there are additional parcels that we have acquired to do so. With the acquisition of those additional parcels came 3 small parcels to the south side of the property that were not zoned light industrial. They are zoned the RTH, multifamily residential, I believe. Those parcels we do not plan on building upon. What those parcels would provide us is with the appropriate buffering that we need from the light industrial district to the residential district. And it just seems appropriate that those parcels be encapsulated and zoned as the light industrial district, because that's what district we are in, as well as the districts immediately flanking us to the east. So we have been before design review, and we have been before, I believe it was Planning Commission and Zoning, and we've received unanimous approval by both. And we're here before you this evening so that we can keep the process going in the right direction.
Sure. Any questions for Mr. Yorks regarding what's being asked? Very good. Are there any other proponents? Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Are there any opponents? Are there any opponents? I declare this public hearing has been held.
An ordinance amending section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the city of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance to rezone real property located adjacent to 131 Buckeye Street, Elyria, Ohio, from residential to household R-TH district to light industrial L-1 district.
Mr. Callahan,
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its third reading.
Second.
second by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-161.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
York.
very much for your time.
Look
Appreciate it.
forward to the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That is all the
Good
public
luck.
hearings.
Thanks.
Can I get approval of the minutes?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Barry. Second by Mr. Sayers. Any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Aye.
And carried. All right. Remarks and reports from city officials. Mayor Whitfield.
Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Turn it up a little.
Yes.
I was using my cell phone but I'm glad to be able to talk with you all tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to kind of share this update. I have a presentation that I've prepared and sent to you all that I was going to use as a guide for the presentation. So I'm excited to do that. I might defer to some of my colleagues here during the presentation as well. So
Okay.
just give me about 20 minutes or so, 20 minutes tops. I know that went longer than what we thought. So I'll try to be brief, but I also want to be thorough. The emphasis for this was really thinking about, I think the city of Elyria has a very unique opportunity. Seeing that we had started our recovery efforts prior to the pandemic, we really have a great opportunity to recover fast, recover stronger, and we have a plan to do so. So I'm going to share that with you all. And I'm really excited to get your feedback on it. So again, we're calling this the Elyria Economic and Social Recovery Plan. And so what's the purpose of this plan? Is to create a living document as a guide for us as a city that really communicates our direction and priorities. And then also as a platform to be able to get feedback from you all, from residents, also get support from you all and residents, and also get understanding from you all, residents, businesses, and community stakeholders. So what's the same, when we talk about the same thing that we came through the door with on January 2nd of this year, in terms of focusing on our goal and our commitment was to transform our economy, our community, and our culture. And that hasn't changed. But what has changed is the method to get there. And that's what we'll be talking about tonight, is just the method and approach on how we get there. The way and that includes how we operate as a city, where we invest our resources, including our time, energy, and funding. So again, the goal is very focused on how do we recover stronger, faster, and focused. How do we recover stronger economically, as a community, as a culture, stronger than what we were prior to the pandemic? How do we recover faster than other cities around the state and around the country? And how can we have a keen focus on key priorities that will set Elyria up for success long term? And so again, you've heard me say this a number of times. I think it's just something about the spirit of Elyria, that we're not intimidated by our challenges, but we're inspired by them. And so really, I feel like this is a call to action for us to continue to be inspired by the challenges that are right in front of us. So in the first piece, in terms of the economy, So in 2020, when we came in here, we knew top priority was to we called it getting in our bag together, a goal of creating 2,025 jobs by 2025 through building a city for entrepreneurs, attracting companies through investing in our workforce, and growing the businesses that already exist here in the city. As you know, many of you know, it's easier to keep a customer than gain a customer. It's cheaper to keep a customer than gain a customer. So how do we keep our businesses here in the city? So we're excited when we heard about, Invacare and the work that was put in to, attract and keep them here in the city of Elyria. We believe that was a true flagship to signal to our other large industries that Elyria is the right place to do business. And we want to continue to work with businesses and improve the way our city operates to make it more business friendly in terms of our timeliness and also having a real customer service center when it comes to businesses. And I've gotten a lot of good feedback from you all, council folks, about opportunities that you see. Secondly, the Skill City Initiative, and I'm really excited about this. I've been working with the community college on this for over a year around how could we make Elyria the most skilled city in our region. And so, one of the things that we'll be bringing to committee that we've referred is to launch this Skill City Initiative, where any Elyria resident who wants to get an in-demand skill will be able to do so tuition free. And we have a plan that encompasses FAFSA, that includes Pell, that includes all the assistance, and then the final gap where the city of Elyria, I'm proposing that we step in and help so that any Elyria who wants to be competitive in this new economy can enroll in the community college and get an in-demand skill. And then lastly, on the economic side, downtown has been a key point of discussion. And we are fortunate we received a grant from the North Family Foundation for $65,000 to create a community development corporation. And this is really an opportunity to put the ball in our residents and our stakeholders' hands to empower them to transform downtown Elyria. So we're excited about that. And again, that's something that we're referring to council as well. Next, in terms of our community, we know that the pandemic had a huge toll on our community, whether it's seniors who are dealing with isolation and neglect, to young people who, as a parent of 3 young people in the household, my heart goes out to all the parents out there who are struggling to keep their kids occupied and busy. My kids are driving us crazy, but they're anxious to do something, and we're taking that to heart even in the city of Elyria. How can we create opportunities for young people within the city that are still safe next year, as well as this heightened need for childcare? As we know, as schools begin to go virtual, and you have working parents that aren't able to work virtually, that creates a burden on childcare, and we think the city should continue to invest in the childcare and youth development. The other piece around how do we continue to have activities that are engaging and fun? I've had a chance to sit down with the Parks Director. We got feedback from the master plan. I'll send that email to you all as well. And around the community is really calling for independent activities to develop our trails, develop our parks in ways that promote active living in Elyria. So we're really going to be proposing the council ways to develop our parks in a way where we get more trails. As you know, we've brought before you a grant application. We've applied to West Park to build a new trail there, but to continue to build on our trail system and make Elyria a very active, walkable, and bikeable city. The third piece around that is just continue to invest in our seniors. We've piloted dedicating space for seniors. So right now we're running our active living, the active people program out of South Rec. So our seniors are crossing with other groups. They have a dedicated space in South, and they're operating out of there. And then in terms of big picture, long term, we hear the feedback about people wanting a large aquatic center here in the city of Elyria. So I think during 2021, we should continue to explore what that might look like, and continue to, put our minds around that. And I think it's another area where our business community might want to get involved, as well as our philanthropic community. And then lastly, our culture. As I've always quoted the Peter Drucker quote, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So you can have the greatest plans, but if you don't have the right culture, it won't go anywhere. And so we want to continue to create a strong culture here in the city, through sharing and celebrating diverse Elyria stories. After the calls for racial justice this year, and we came together and created a space for people to share their history and their story of race issues here in the city. We want to continue to create space and share stories so that we have a better understanding of one another here in the city and kind of cultivate that climate of inclusion and unity. As we, see the division that's happening around the country, I'm hoping that we can be a beacon of light in terms of how a community didn't shun tackling tough issues, but, really, again, address them and stay together through it. The next piece, again, is just the challenges that we face. We shouldn't try to do them in isolation. So it's going to be critical that we continue to look for collaboration and building those partnerships. We've seen that through the CARES Act, in particular, how we relied on so many community partners to serve our community. I think we should continue to explore those ways like we're doing with Horizon and our rec center and other community groups, how We Care and the churches came together and helped feed seniors, versus just continue to be open to that. And then investing in technology. The fact that we're able to keep things rolling like we are, even having this meeting tonight through technology, is going to be a key factor in not only the quality of life for our residents, but also how effective we deliver our city services and how well we communicate. And then lastly, it's just going to be important for us to transform our operations. Being in office over this past year, I've gotten a chance to interact with our staff. We have an amazing staff here at the city, and they're hungry for development. They're hungry for professional development. They see areas of improvement, and they see areas of growth. I want to take them up on that. I've committed to creating a culture in 2021 and beyond that is about supporting one another, but it's also about holding each other accountable. And for our residents, keeping residents at the center of our decisions. So continuing to collaborate across departments, making sure our departments have the tools and equipment they need and the staffing and capacity they need to serve our residents. And then again, just continue to think about new hires. We need to invest in bringing people onto the team, making adjustments. This year we did a hiring freeze that really limited our capacity. We put together a bunch of cost savings measures that we do want to continue into 2021 because they help save the city a lot of money. But making those changes in our operations is important. One of those key changes we're announcing tonight, Mr. Kevin Brubaker will be our Safety Service Director starting January 1st. So we're excited to have him embrace that role. He was someone who over the course of this year really demonstrated the spirit of what we're looking for and what we need as we go into this new phase of transformation and recovery. So congratulations to Mr. Brubaker, and looking forward to 2021. Again, the whole idea, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. So really going to be leaning on City Council because, it doesn't matter how great of ideas we have, how great of partnerships we have lined up, initiatives we have lined up. It's going to require us to partner with City Council to make this happen. So I'm looking forward to working together in 2021. It's been a great 2020, though it's been full of challenges. I'm just proud of how we've met every challenge, and I'm excited about 2021. So I'll open it up to any questions that any council folks may have. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor. So that was your presentation was inspiring and trying to be a part of that project that we're, to help all be a part of 2021's recovery and moving forward with what you've discussed over and through. So there's going to be obviously more conversations and more dialogue with that about what you're going to be presenting here further on. So at this time, I'll congratulate Kevin Brubaker on his new appointment. I know Kevin has worked hard and for the city for many, many years in that. But in saying that, then what would be the role of Director Firestein at this particular?
Yeah, so Director Firestein is going to shift his focus to the HR, and we're going to have him working and focus as an Assistant Safety Service Director, but really focusing on the HR. As you know, we lost our HR director prior to the pandemic, and it was, kind of serendipitous but good at the same time. Director Firestein was also becoming a certified professional human resource officer. So it aligns well to have him working in that capacity and interim function, and we'll see how, and hopefully that's successful and that works out.
Okay, very good. And I'll open it up for questioning. Mr. Tolet.
Through you, Mr. President. Awesome presentation, Mayor. Can you talk a little bit more about Skill City and how that works? Can you just touch on it a little bit?
Yeah. So, one of the key things in terms of context wise, even in conversations with Invacare, when we interview them and say, hey, when we had time to talk with them, hey, why did you choose Elyria? Why are you standing there? What was the sauce that made you want to stay and grow here? They said it's the people. They said the workforce here is, when you go to another city, you have to try to build that, and you all have that. And we know in our workforce here in Elyria, we have an aging workforce, and we have a bunch of people who are excited to get in the workforce. We have a lot of people who commute into Elyria. So this initiative is really spurred out of a strategy that if we invest in our people and them having the skills, and we are identified as the most skilled city in this region, then we'll attract more employers. So this is something the community college, when they launched their 10,000 degrees by 2025, I met with them and said, hey, I want to make sure Elyria is a huge chunk of that. I want, Elyria to be 2,000 of those degrees that happen. And as opposed to just, and this is not a knock on other degree programs, but how can we make sure the degrees people pursue in Elyria are in demand? They're not going down a pathway that may not be here in 5 years. So how do we support in demand? And so in our conversation with the college, we kind of talked about, what is the gap in financing that normally stops a student from enrolling or completing a program? And we found that it's $500 or less that really stops a student from enrolling in a course or completing a course. And so that's where I'm hoping the city, we can be creative with some of our funding to support that gap.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions for the mayor? Ms. Davis?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
I like your presentation and thank you. Also, I hope that Oakwood School is in that plan for the seniors, hoping that we can really make that school available. It's in a great location, parking and where it's located within the park. So hopefully we can put something there for the seniors as we look at West Park for a trail. And so that facility there, along with the trail that we're hoping that we get there, will be a great asset to the seniors.
No doubt about it. Thank you, Councilwoman Davis. And through you, Chair, that is definitely something I'm looking forward to having some discussions with you all this year about how we want to utilize Oakwood school building and the expansion of West Park.
Thank you.
Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. President, directed towards Mayor Whitfield. I know we've had discussions about downtown Elyria, and I think it's great that you're going to get together a group, a committee, because I've often said that we can't just run rapid. We got to have a game plan. And I told you that a long time ago. I says, you have to have your goal, what you want. And I'm hoping that that's what can happen, because unless you have that goal, that game plan, it's not going to come together. And I know we've got a good lot of pieces. And if you could get them together, it could make a nice place for people to come back to again. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. To Mr. Brubaker, congratulations, well-deserved. Mr. Firestein, congratulations to you as well. To the mayor, I think the partnership with the college is outstanding. I think that's something that we can build the future of Elyria on. But what are you thinking? How are we going to pay to bridge that gap? Where is that money going to come from? Are we going to reach out for grants? Where would that money come from? Thank you.
Yeah. So through you, Council President, thank you for that, Councilwoman Mitchell. There's really three buckets, in terms of all the transformations that we're proposing that I think are first places to look. First is issue 6. The second is community development block grant. and then last would be our general fund. So with issue 6, we have this economic development bucket of resources, and we intentionally this year reserved spending any or most over $600,000 of the issue 6. We intentionally didn't spend with the thought of coming out of this, like saving it to come out of this recession or whatever we want to call it, to come out of this stronger. So we intentionally didn't spend so that we could have those resources available through the issue 6 economic development. But there's also community development block grant dollars that we can start to look at in the future. And then, ultimately, general fund is a last resort. But again, these are investments. I really see these as items that will have a return on them. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Any other questions for the mayor? I'm sure there's going to, Mr. Callahan?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. To the mayor, I don't really have a question. I just like to make a comment. And I just want to say to the mayor and his staff, I appreciate all the elements that are in the plan, and especially your efforts to try to bring people together. I think that's well needed. It's well timed going forward. I'm very optimistic. So thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wants to make a comment to the mayor? And there's going to be obviously plenty more conversations that are going to be had and how things are going to be developing, but I think it's a step in the right direction and kind of having a plan in place and moving forward with more conversations that need to be had and the encouragement that's out there. So with that being said,
Council President.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
There was the one thing I didn't mention, I want to make sure I mention, is now Dawn Calvert will be responsible for overseeing departments that touch business. So she'll be overseeing the building department. She'll be collaborating that group with community development, folks from engineering. So again, we kind of streamline that process for businesses in the city. That was feedback that I heard from Councilman Oswald and from a number of you have talked about, hey, we need to kind of sharpen this process up. So, Dawn is really going to be taking a deep dive on that. We fortunately have a partnership with Harvard is actually helping us out in creating a better process as well. So just want to mention that as well. So congrats to Dawn as well.
Yes, very good. Congratulations, Ms. Calvert, on your new position there. So shuffling things up a little bit, but it looks exciting and encouraging. It's all going to be still in an active role for everybody because we're only successful as we're all working together. So anybody else have any comments for the mayor regarding his presentation and for future conversations? Okay. Very good. Thank you, Mayor. Director Firestein.
Good evening, City Council members. I have no report this evening other than to report that we did receive the EPA diesel grant that we applied for over the summertime. So we will be getting 2 dump trucks for the price of 1. So it's a great win for us to kind of end the year on, and happy to answer any questions any of you may have. Thank you.
When will those become available, Director Firestein?
We have to, yes, through the chair to members of council, we have to communicate. We were just awarded, I believe, in the last week, that great news. So we have to work with EPA. We can't order them yet. We have to sign the agreement with EPA to do that. And then we can start the process. So based on how long they take to build, I'm sure we could see them sometime in the spring or maybe early summer. But don't hold me to that timeline.
Sure. No.
But I will communicate.
Well, very good. Thank you for your efforts on that and good work. And
thank you.
Good luck to you in your new position. And we'll start communicating and working with that. Any questions for Mr. Firestein? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Ms. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. I couldn't get my mute off. Could you tell us where these vehicles are going to be used that we're getting the 2 for 1?
Yes, through the chair to members of council, these dump trucks will be placed in the street department. So they were replacing dump trucks that were built prior to 2010. So in 2010, there was a new diesel technology, if you will, that made it safer for the environment for emissions. And so the goal is this grant is to help get vehicles that are made after 2010 that takes advantage of that. So we'll be replacing 2 dump trucks, I believe, that were built 2006, 2007. and we'll be replacing that. That way it's better for the environment, and we get two new trucks out of it for the price of one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions? Finance Director Plesky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council members should have received the November income tax report last week. And if you have not looked at that, the income tax collections for November of this year were down $350,266 as compared to, excuse me, November of 2019. Excuse me. That puts us down for the year $1,707,283 as compared to the first 11 months of 2019. The December 1 distribution from the Regional Income Tax Agency was down $506,438 as compared to the December 1, 2019 distribution, or 2019 distribution. So as of today, we are down $2,213,721 as compared to this time last year for the same time period last year. So the pandemic is still affecting our income tax collections. I think it's going to continue. This downward trend will more than likely continue through the first quarter of next year, possibly longer. I think a stimulus package, obviously, that helps out individuals, small businesses, and local governments will help us. And the only thing that really saved us this year was the CARES Act money, where we were able to spend that money as opposed to some general fund monies and other funds. So we'll keep a close eye on it, but we're still trending downwards.
Any questions for Mr. Pileski? Mr. Oswald?
For you, Mr. President. Mr. Pileski, this time last year in 2019, the income tax collection was in 19. Was that a great year, or was that a average year as far as comparable to what we're doing this year?
2019 was a good year, mainly because we had a lot of city projects going around the city, a lot of sewer projects, and that was extra income tax revenues, as well as the school projects. So the school projects will be winding down as we move into 2021. And then, of course, we've got to be mindful of the fact that Bendix will be leaving. They're transitioning out probably the fourth quarter of 2021. And as you know, as I've reported in the past, we collect about $1.5 million per year in annual withholding tax from Bendix that we'll be losing beginning probably in the fourth quarter of next year. So, but 2019 was a good year.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Ted.
Any other questions for Mr. Pileski? Okay. Mary, if I could, I wanted to ask you, is there, with what was being said with the CARES Act, where there was opportunities that other communities didn't use, do you have any updated information on that?
Yeah, so thank you, Council President. So yeah, we received an additional $50,000 in our distribution due to us having encumbered all our finances from the CARES Act. We received an additional $50K. I'll be honest with you, I think there's more money out there that we should have received. So I have, our grant writers, I've asked them to really push, because I know how much work we put in, and I didn't see that from too many municipalities. So yeah, we're looking in to see if there's more, but we did receive an additional $50,000 due to the work that we did do.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Mr. Pileski?
Through you, so that extra, it was like 56,000. So that will be included in the final amendments to the permanent appropriation at the next finance meeting, and then the final council meeting of this year.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pileski. Okay. Law Director Deary.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no formal report other than some or all of you may have heard that there's been a few incidents of COVID-19 over at Elyria Muni Court that has affected my prosecutor's office over there. We've been ramping up on virtual hearings. I had a few people that were quarantined last week, so I was over there for a few days as well as some of the other members of my civil staff. But things went as smoothly as one could hope, and slowly but surely people are getting their health back, thankfully, and things are going okay. But other than that, I don't have a report. But as always, if anybody's got questions, you know where to find me.
Questions for Ms. Theory? Okay. Speedy recovery for everybody over there. Mr. Brubaker, Assistant Safety Service Director.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple quick things. I know we're already long into the meeting as it is. I know the mayor put out a Facebook post late last week in regards to the snowstorm and the results and the process that our street department, pretty much all of our departments in the city did. They did a fantastic job considering we got 14 inches of snow. And just to put that in quick perspective, we've not got that big a snowfall at any one time in the last several years. In fact, the last 3 years, only one time a year did we get 4 inches or more. We had to do secondaries. So the street crews did a fabulous job. And I know it took us some time, and I know it left some issues in some neighborhoods. We've worked with the street department and the drivers to correct that next time. And also as a follow-up to that, I know several of you have contacted the mayor's office in regards to leaf pickup. We will continue leaf pickup once what is out on the streets kind of goes away. It's very difficult to snatch up the leaves when there's still about 6 or 8 inches of snow frozen on top of it. So once that starts to melt, hopefully next week we'll get some more leaf trucks out, make another round or two through the city to get what's out there. With all that being said, unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
Okay. Now I would second the snow removal for the street department. They did a phenomenal job. So any questions from Mr. Brubaker? I know I'm kind of going out a little order. Normally we go through the chief and police and fire chief Mac, but Ms. Calvert, congratulations on your new assignment and role.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited about it. I have no report tonight, but would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from Ms. Calvert? Okay, very good. Thank you. Chief Whiteley, Elyria Police Department.
I have no report, but I can answer any of your questions if you have any.
Questions for the chief? Okay, very good.
Through you, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Baird.
Yeah, Chief. I know the Elyria Arts Council has had a concern. There's a fella kind of loitering down there in front of their building, and they want to have a tree situation that they've always done. And this guy is out there. Can't he be moved along for loitering and so on?
Mr. President, I can take that. I worked with the mayor and we were able to relocate that individual late last week. So he has
He's
moved
out?
on. Yes, sir.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Any other questions for Chief Whiteley? Thank you, Chief. Chief Mack, Elyria Fire Department.
I have no report, Mr. President, but available for any questions.
Questions for Chief Mack? Okay, very good. Mr. Corzine, I see is from wastewater. Mr. Corzine, do you have any report?
No report, Mr. President, unless council has any questions.
Okay. All right, I think that's everybody that I see on the screen. I don't know if Mr. Schneider's in, but doesn't seem like it.
No report, Mr. President.
Oh, I'm sorry, John. Very good. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Schneider? None? All right. I think that about covers it. Did I miss anybody? Looks like I got everybody. All right. Thank you, everybody. President's referrals and remonstrances. Item number 1, community development. Item number 2, community development. Item number 3, community development finance. Item number 4, community development and finance. Item number 5, community development and finance. Item number 6 to finance. Item number 7 to finance. Item number 8 to finance. Item number 9 to finance. Item number 10 to rules. Item number 11 to utilities. Item number 12 to utilities and finance. I don't know if there was a second sheet to that or not. If the clerk's office extended that, all other items, I guess.
Got it. You're good.
Okay. I would ask that all the department heads would have all that information to the committees that's been asked for, so we can have all that information. It seems like there's a lot of referrals here and going through a lot of business there, so I'd appreciate that. Okay. Petitions and remonstrances from council members.
There are none.
Petitions and remonstrances from the lobby.
There are none.
Reports of standing and special committees.
None.
Resolutions first reading.
Sponsored by Finance. A resolution approving a list of properties for the collection of demolition-related costs and directing the clerk of council to certify said costs to the Lorraine County Auditor.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this resolution be passed reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any discussion?
Question?
Question's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
2020-27.
Bless you.
Sponsored by Finance. A resolution approving a list submitted by the Safety Service Director for the collection of lot mowing charges and directing the clerk of council to certify said list to the Lorraine County Auditor.
Gillette.
Mr. President, I ask that this resolution be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question?
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Resolution 2020-28. Sponsored by Utilities. A resolution authorizing the continuation of a base rate for the stormwater utility service charge as authorized by the codified ordinances of the city of Elyria.
Ms. Mitchell.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading.
Second.
Pardon me, there's a suspension of rules,
Suspension.
excuse me.
Does the second concur?
Second concur.
Second concurs. Is there any further discussion?
Question?
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Motion carried.
Resolution 2020-29. That's all for resolutions first reading.
Resolutions second reading.
There are none.
Resolutions third reading.
There are none.
Ordinances first reading.
Sponsored by Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease agreement with the Lorraine County Port Authority to lease premises located at 530 South Abbey Road, Elyria, Ohio, for the purpose of cold storage of seasonal equipment, supplies, and vehicles for the city of Elyria and declare an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. On suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-162. Sponsored by Utilities. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Utilitech Dioxin for utility and stormwater bill processing and mailing services for the city of Elyria.
Ms. Mitchell,
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
second by Ms. Davis. Is there any discussion?
Question.
Question.
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-163. Sponsored by Community Development Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply for and if offered, accept and enter into a water supply revolving loan account, WSRLA agreement through the Ohio EPA for the replacement of lead service lines and galvanized service lines, public and private sides in the city of Elyria.
Mr. Callahan,
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
second by Mr. Tolet. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-164. Sponsored by Community Development Finance. An ordinance amending ordinance number 2019-195 to include COVID-19 funding to the Community Development Block Grant CDBG program year 2020 Annual Action Plan and 2020-2024 Consolidation Plan and declare an emergency.
Mr. Callahan,
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declare an emergency.
Second.
second by Mr. Tolet. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-165. Sponsored by Community Development Finance. An ordinance approving the FY 2021 Community Development Block Grant Action Plan for the 2020 through 2024 Consolidated Plan and Annual Analysis of Impediments for Fair Housing Choice Update for 2021, and authorizing the mayor to submit the FY 2021 Action Plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and declare an emergency.
Someone want to get that? Mr. Callahan,
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declare an emergency.
Second.
second by Mr. Tolet. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-166. Sponsored by Community Development Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with McDonald Hopkins LLC for economic development and general municipal legal services.
Mr. Callahan,
Well, Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
second by Mr. Tolet. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2020-167. That's all ordinances first reading.
Ordinance is second reading.
There are none.
Ordinance is third reading.
There are none.
Committee calls.
Community Development requests the presence of the Law Director, Safety Service Director, Engineer, and Building Inspector on 12/14, streamed, followed by joint with Finance in the count. All referred items. Excuse me. Finance requests the Mayor, Finance Director, Law Director, and Safety Service Director and Engineer on 12/14, following joint with Community Development. All referred items. Utility, Safety, and Environment requests the Safety Service Director, Law Director, and Engineer on 12/16, streamed, 6 p.m. All referred items.
Okay. Miscellaneous and unfinished business. Nobody? Okay.
Hearing no further business, move we adjourn.
Moved by Mr. Baird, second by Mr. Sarah. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, everybody. Great job. Carol, I'll be in to sign the legislation. In a little bit, put it in my box, and we'll be good to go.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Thank you,
Good night.
everybody.
Good night.
Be safe out there.